Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? Hope it's fantastic. I mentioned yesterday that I played a video game this weekend and I might talk about it. We're going to talk about it. And the game that I played this weekend is called Tormented Souls. I played it on the Switch. And I really enjoyed the experience. If you don't know what Tormented Souls is, this is... I don't want to call it a clone. It's more like a throwback game. It's a 90s horror game with modern graphics, right? Static cameras, jump scares, all that sort of stuff. It's basically Resident Evil, just different puzzles and a different story. And it felt really good to play that way, right? It felt really good to re-experience those creepy types of games on modern hardware with modern graphics. I mean, as modern as the Switch is with graphics are concerned. But it looks great. It actually looks really, really, really well done. On the graphics are... The presentation is excellent on the Switch. The gameplay is great. I have very little... bad things to say about the gameplay other than my inability to play it. It has, like I said, the static cameras. It has that basic, 90s, you can't walk while you're aiming kind of thing, reloading. The menus all feel the same if you're used to playing Resident Evil or Silent Hill or those types of games. Very, very similar stuff going on here. The puzzles are fun and engaging. I think they were, for the most part, they're all relatively in your face and easy to solve. There was a couple that we spent a little too long trying to figure out, but for the most part, they were all like, oh, I know what I need to do, Or you would, it even got to the point where you would find something, like you would go into a room, minor spoiler here. I went into a room and there was a freezer, and I opened the freezer and it was empty. And the character commented on the freezer, and I went and I looked at him and I was like, "We're gonna have to put something in there later and come back." Surprise! Yeah, that's the case. So there was lots of those kind of moments. You would walk into a room and you would immediately know, all right, that's going to be something I have to think about in the future. There are very few objects to interact with. Actually, there are. That's not true. There are very few objects that you can interact with throughout the game that don't have impact in the future. Every now and then they'll put some prompts in a room where it's like there's nothing of importance here, or these are just books or whatever, but it's pretty rare, and you never encounter something that isn't a part of a puzzle later. It's all pretty much always a puzzle. It's played very, very well. I will give one thing that really upset me. For third-party games on the Switch, if you're a Switch owner, you probably know that there's a lot of stability issues with the Switch. And for a game that does not have autosave, it has a classic, you need to find a save object and take it to a save room and save, that same kind of thing from Resident Evil. For a game that doesn't have autosave, when it crashes, it really sucks. And so, the good news is, I feel like they give you an abundance of save tapes. So just go use them pretty frequently. Because when it crashes, it's going to suck. And it's crashed on me twice, I think. Maybe only once. I think it was twice, though. And I felt pretty crappy about it. Thankfully, it was only like maybe 10 minutes of gameplay I had to repeat. And it wasn't difficult gameplay at all. But it's a very good game. It came with a physical map, which was cool. The map of the mansion that you're in. I should talk about the writing. So I guess the hit that I'll give this game is the writing is laughable. It is the story concept is okay. But the writing itself, like, the character's motivations are flimsy at best. Like, she has absolutely no reason being where she is in this game. Like, it's just, she gets a letter in the mail and she goes, "Well, I have to go figure this out." Why? Like, you could just live your life. Like, like there's really flimsy character motivation in here. There's really flimsy that continues. Like, she says a few times, "I have to find this." Why? Like, why do you have to do anything? You're just a So there's some really flimsy character motivation. There's some very flimsy dialogue. There is at least one other character that you get to actually talk with throughout the game that appears regularly, and the dialogue is pretty flimsy, and the voice acting is pretty bad on the main character's part. Her voice acting is not great. Very just monotone. I don't know what she's trying. Doesn't convey the correct emotions that the message is trying to deliver. That sort of stuff. But the story. So I'll give you. I guess this is spoilers if you're interested in playing it. Whatever. It is a you go to this mansion that is destroyed, basically. Think Resident Evil. But instead of zombies, you're facing these like medical mysteries, right? There's been some. This mansion is a makeshift hospital, and the doctors there have been performing, odd experiments, and so there are enemies that are basically just severely twisted and mutilated humans. There is some mysticism, like you're going to travel between worlds, between like kind of like an upside down version of our current world that's more twisted, and you're going to need to do that to solve some puzzles. You're going to do a little bit of time travel. There's definitely some odd choices, but they work really well for the puzzles, and when you need to do it, it's not like it's out of the way and annoying. But it is fairly flimsy. The story is fairly flimsy. It's supported, just like Resident Evil, with documents after documents after documents you find all over the place, and you start to piece together what's happening. You're starting to piece together why the mysticism is happening. You're piecing together why the experiments are happening. It's not just dude wants to make killer humans. It's for a reason. These things exist, and it's I think that for me, at least, all of that stuff I just gave as a negative, the writing and all that, that's just ancillary to the game. I wanted to play a new version of Resident Evil, meaning that I came into this saying, I wish there were more games like old school Resident Evil. This is what that is, right? Like, this is replace the weird creatures in here with zombies, and you basically have just this more of the same, which is what I've always wanted out of the Resident Evil series, is more of the same. Instead, in later games, it diverged and turned into something very, very different. But at least the first few games kept that feeling, and this is just like an homage to that. It feels like you're just playing a Resident Evil game. I will say that the way the camera motion... So if you've never played one of these games... They're played from fixed camera angles, right? You are walking through a house, and the cool aspect of these games was the camera would be fixed, and they're usually in some weird angle so that you can't see what's off screen. You're not looking through the character, you're watching in third person. So the character is coming towards the camera, and then as the character crosses the plane of the camera switches to back here. And in those old Resident Evil games, when you did that, so you're pushing forward on your walk stick, or you're pulling down because the character's coming towards you, when that camera switch happens, you don't have to do anything with the stick. It still continues walking in that direction. And it's a very fluid... You get really used to the camera switch and then how you have to manipulate your stick once the camera changes. In this game, I feel like it's not quite right, and maybe I'm just misremembering how it used to work. But in this game, if you do that, say I'm holding down and I walk past the camera, when the camera angle switches, she takes a few more steps in that direction, but she starts to veer, like she's going to turn around and come back. And it really threw me off. It has thrown me off for the probably 8 hours or 10 hours I've spent in the game. I'm still, like, when the camera changes, I'm still walking into walls because I'm not used to it. And so, again, I don't know if that's me or if that's a product of this type of game or this game itself. But that's my one, like, gameplay negative. But overall, I thought it's a really cool game. It's a really fun story. There's lots of creepy stuff going on. There's a few good jump scares. I love the dark atmosphere. I absolutely love the weird underworld, drippy pipe, metallic, industrial sound, weird creatures stuff. It fits that genre for me extremely well. Very much enjoying the game. Probably going to finish it tonight if I can. I've unfortunately found myself at the end of the game, or what I suppose is the end of the game. There's no more puzzles left that I haven't solved. And I'm pretty low on ammo. I did not conserve as much as I probably could have. And if you've played those older games, ammo conservation was huge. In this game, it didn't feel like I really needed to worry about it too much. They were just constantly throwing ammo at me. But I'm near the end of the game, and I'm pretty low. So if I can, I'm going to finish it soon. If I can't, I'm going to have to backtrack a couple of saves and try to conserve as much as I can to get through the ending. Tormented Souls from Pulse, or no, P-Cube, sorry. And Abstract Digital. Very cool game. Definitely recommend. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is obfuscate. It is a verb meaning to talk or write about a subject in a way that deliberately makes it unclear, selectively omits certain facts, or communicates wrong ideas or impressions, so that the listener or reader does not grasp the whole truth of the situation. Despite his Ivy League education, Alexander seems able only to obfuscate any subject upon which he touches. Obfuscate. O-B-F-U-S-C-A-T-E. So, when I started in the gaming industry in the late 90s, mid 90s, LARPing was a big deal, in particular Vampire the Masquerade, and in that game, obfuscation was how vampires hid themselves in plain sight. So they would obfuscate, meaning that they would be difficult to detect. And in the LARP community, when you're obfuscating, you did this. And so you would see people doing that at conventions, and it was just hilariously laughable because it was, I don't know, we laughed at LARPers back then. Maybe I'm a bully.